I love my church because it's fresh, it's positive, and it's absolutely bursting with life. We started the Junction Church 7 years ago with just 12 people. And over the course of that first year, it was a tough year. We lost people. In fact, we were about 10 by the end of it. We just kept loving on the people and serving and building great culture, utilizing what we had. And over the past 7 years, we've seen significant growth. There are now hundreds of people who call the Junction Church their home. We meet across 3 campuses, Loughborough, Leicester, and Nottingham. And there's loads of young leaders rising up. Great culture. We love it. I look forward to going to church every Sunday, which is what every pastor should do. And we are just loving what God's doing here. Yep, I love my church.
Hi, my name's Gemma and I've danced since the age of 3. I went to a dancing school for 3 years and then did it professionally as a job for 6 years after that. When I stopped performing in 2011, I wasn't sure what I was going to do because dancing brought great joy to my life and I wasn't sure where this joy was going to come from anymore. I've tried various jobs, different hobbies, and even though I've been really happy, something was missing. Along the way, I've been really lucky to have met many incredible friends, one of which is Cece. I used to work with Cece and I've known her for 4 years and she's always spoke to me about church and what God has done for her. I've made the decision one day to go to church, and from the minute I walked through the door, I was met with love and joy from everyone and left with incredible joy, so much so that I couldn't wait to get back the next week. After a few weeks of being at church, I made the decision to follow Jesus. This wasn't planned. I hadn't thought about doing this. It just happened and it felt right. And after making that decision, I wanted to share my story with other people, but was a bit worried about what others would say and how they would react. And then one day I just thought, no, why are you scared? Just share your story. And after telling people how much joy that it's filled me with and what God has done for me, I've had 3 friends want to come to church, 2 of which have made the decision to follow Jesus, and then I've had other people come forward and ask me, oh, I want to know what your church is like and tell me about God and what He's done for you. So I'm just really, really thankful that I met Cece and that she encouraged me to come to church and that I plucked up the courage to go. I'm really thankful for choosing the Junction Church, and it's just massively changed my life and I'll never look back.
Hi, my name's Mark. So I've always been a hopeful person. Even as a child I was hopeful. I always expected to do well in school and I wanted to do a finance role. So I did a finance degree and I ended up working for a large company in a financial position. And it was a job I loved. It was a great team and I was the finance director. It was everything that I could have hoped for. So unfortunately that role was terminated, so I then had to go and do another job which was a much less interesting job for me. I'd always been motivated by my work. I couldn't wait to go into work. I always wanted to do the best I could, but this was a stage in my life where I was struggling to even get the motivation to go into work, and it was affecting everything else around me. But what I found was that my faith was actually getting deeper. I was getting closer to God as those troubles were hitting me. And I remember reflecting on loads of passages, but one of the key ones for me was David's psalm that says, "Why are you downcast, O my soul? And why so downcast within me? Place your hope in God." I will yet praise you, my God and my Saviour. And I just think passages like that, they were just so inspirational for me, and they helped me to focus on how blessed I was by God, all the blessings that He'd given me, my friends and my family, my children and my church. And in that way I could see that actually those blessings were going to continue, and the main thing in my life was my relationship with Him, and that could not be taken away from me. Hope for me is an expectation deep down that something really good is going to happen.
So my name's Cece and I'm a teaching assistant. How I became a Christian, it's a bit of a long story. I just came to a place in life where I just started to question life a little bit and what life is actually about, what we're here for. And you know, these thoughts just went around and round in my head. So it was in that time I actually met a really lovely lady walking down the street who had the courage to just come and speak to me and tell me about Jesus and what He'd done for her life. And yeah, I just found it really intriguing what she was saying, so I thought I'll go to her church. None of my family are Christians, none of my family are quite religious, so it was quite a bold decision for me to even go to church. And it was when I went to her church that I just experienced something amazing. Just knew that there's something special about it and just gave my life to God. The next day, I remember waking up and just feeling completely different. I wasn't who I was literally a brand new person. And I remember walking down the street on that day, and I just remember looking around at everybody and thinking, I need them to know that there's a God and He's real and He loves you and He's there. But I didn't have the confidence or the courage to go and tell them. At university, I met lots of amazing people and they were really patient with me, and they wanted to know a little bit about myself and who I am. So I told them who I am and, you know, what am I into? And my hobby is, like, I love God and I go to church and I have a really good community at church. And so after telling them and them seeing a little bit of my life, the same thing that kind of happened to me, they wanted that as well. And so they came along, came to church and just gave their lives to Jesus. It is scary. It's going to be scary going to people that you don't know, or maybe people that you do know, and then telling them something that you think, oh, they're not going to accept about you. But I think the thing that helps me is knowing that I have something so special, and it's not just for me, but it's for every single person on earth. Why wouldn't I share that? So that's the thing that goes around in my head. I'm going to share it because I've got something really, really amazing. Courage to me is stepping out into something and doing something that's new, something that might be strange to you, and just going for it, and going for it knowing that there's a result at the end, knowing that there's something that good that can come from that.
I first started climbing, it must have been about 10 years ago. Initially I thought it would be a good way to get over my fear of heights. It didn't happen straight away, given that, but slowly over time I managed to work on it, and as I became more used to it, I managed to get over my fear of heights. I think fear is one of those interesting things that we all have very different experiences. Everyone's scared of something, and I think my fear of heights was one. I think the one that probably affected me more was my fear of what other people thought of me, and my fear of other people's expectations and always having to meet those. I think when you set yourself up like that, there's almost a great dissatisfaction of never being able to meet other people's expectations and never being able to meet those levels. And I guess the fear of that was something which really affected my life. I think being a Christian really changed that, because I have a God who loves me and says that my value is fixed, that my worth is really unchangeable. And to have a God who says that about me means I don't need to be afraid and don't need to be fearful of other people's opinions. And I think what's amazing is that has really freed me up from that fear. Faith to me means freedom to live the adventure of life without any barriers.
When I first came to university, I was the stereotypical university student. I absolutely loved to go out with my friends, but what I found was that lifestyle was actually quite lonely. It was strange because I was constantly surrounded by people, yet still felt like I was on my own. It wasn't until my second year of uni when two of my housemates invited me to church that things started to change. After months of being invited to church, I finally decided to go. When I got there, there was a warmth and welcome I had never experienced before. The people there made me feel so valued and instantly felt like it was my home. Going to church was one of the best decisions I've made, and my life is completely different now to how it used to be. Knowing that I'm loved by God, surrounded by a caring community, and have a purpose in life means I'm no longer lonely.